How are we doing today? I hope you're well. Today I want to talk about something that I think most hikers experience from time to time, and that is gear envy. Most of us have probably been out on a trail and either we're hiking with somebody who has a really cool piece of gear, or we see somebody hiking along the same trail that has a really cool piece of gear, and we think to ourselves, that would really enhance my hiking experience. That's something I want. That's something I need. And we rush out and we buy the thing, and it either goes one or two ways. Either we're really excited that we have this piece of gear, or we're really kind of disappointed that we wasted the money. So what I've done today is I've pulled out 4 pieces of gear that I bought strictly because I saw other people on the trail with them. 2 of these pieces of gear have found their way into my kit, and I use them all the time. 2 of these pieces of gear have not found their way into my kit, and I'll likely never use them again. So I want to start with one of the pieces of gear that I bought and don't use anymore. Used very, very few times and will probably never use again. And that is my Goal Zero Nomad solar panel and battery. I was hiking on the Tahoe Rim Trail in 2016, and I saw these 2 thru hikers, and they had one of these solar panels laid out in their campsite. You know, their phone was plugged into it, and they're playing a little bit of music quietly while they're setting up their tent. And I felt really kind of jealous, you know, that I didn't have a solar panel. I didn't have any way to really recharge my phone, and I didn't have any way to, you know, recharge my headlamp or any of these other items that I brought that were all USB chargeable. And I thought, gosh, you know, that solar panel is kind of a really elegant solution to that issue. So when I got home, I rushed right out and I bought one. And I took it on a few hikes with me and got a fair amount of use out of it. What I learned on those hikes is that because I hike in areas with fairly dense tree cover, there wasn't really an opportunity to charge the battery that came with the solar panel. And the battery was what I needed to use to charge my phone, because the panel itself wasn't compatible with my iPhone. It just wouldn't reliably charge my iPhone. So the concept was you would hang the solar panel on the back of your backpack. It would charge all day while you were walking, filling up the battery. You then plug your phone into the battery at night. And that really didn't happen for me because there just wasn't enough direct sunlight to keep the battery charged. Now, I did get a lot of use, and still to this day get a lot of use out of the battery that came with it. Typically, I'll just charge it in a wall outlet in my house or charge it in the outlet in my car on the way to the trailhead, and I'll get a charge and a half of my cell phone with that little battery. So it's a nice thing to carry just on an overnight trip. It's not as bulky or heavy as my usual battery pack, and it works great for just a single overnight, or even I can push it to like a 2-night trip. So I've gotten more use actually out of the battery than I did the entire package. The next item that I bought because I saw someone with it on the trail is this little butterfly chair. And it's actually a super comfortable chair. I really enjoy the chair. I took it out on a ton of hikes. Probably for an entire season, it went on every single hike with me. And it's just a super compact little bit of canvas. There's no front legs, so your legs are technically the front legs, and then you just sort of rock back and forth on these 2 center balanced legs in the middle. And I enjoy the chair, I really do. But what I found was that because I hike in areas that require a bear can, and because I tend to hike longer miles and I'm usually pretty tired when I get to camp, setting up a chair wasn't really a priority for me, and I would end up just sitting on my bear can while I was cooking or hanging out around the campsite. And more, the chair came with me but didn't get used. And then it just started staying home, and I haven't carried it, probably 2 years now. I haven't carried this chair with me, which is kind of a shame, but kind of not. Like, I really enjoy the chair. It's a comfortable chair. But if I'm not using it, there's really no point in carrying it. All right, so let's get into the two things that I bought because other hikers had them and I use all the time. The first one is my little inflatable pillow. My buddy Brian brought a pillow on a hike. I think it was Mount Whitney, but I could be very wrong about that. We go on a lot of hikes together. But anyway, he had a pillow. I didn't. I had my stuff sack full of clean-ish clothing, and that's what I used as a pillow. Not super comfortable, but it got the job done. And on this one particular trip, Brian whipped out this pillow when he was setting up his tent, and I was just like, wow, what is that? Didn't even know they existed up until that point. Had no idea. And I was so envious of Brian's pillow that when we got home from that trip, I rushed right out and I picked one up, and it has a permanent place in my pack. So the last item I want to talk about is another one that I saw Brian with first, and I got super jealous and had to get them for myself. And that is this pair of Outdoor Research winter gloves. These are great gloves. I had a pair of perfectly good gloves. They were just kind of a snowboarding design. They were waterproof, they were warm, they were great. They were a little heavy and a little bulky, and Brian brought these out on one of our winter hikes, and just immediately I could feel the gear envy swelling up inside me, and I wanted these gloves so bad, but I didn't buy them right away. I actually waited almost a full year, and I found them on sale for about 45% off. Part of the reason that I waited was they were prohibitively expensive for me at the time. They retailed for about $119 when I first learned about them, and then they dropped down to about $100, and still that was a little too rich for my blood, and I had a perfectly functional pair of gloves. Out on the trail at some point, I ripped a hole in my snowboarding gloves. Now I needed new gloves. So I waited and waited until I could find these gloves specifically on sale, and I got them for about 45% off. So it was a good deal, and I'm really happy that I waited. They're great gloves. They're waterproof. They have a removable liner that you can wear while you're hiking, and I'm really happy with them. Really great. So that's a case when gear envy really worked to my benefit. Now the two bits of gear, the solar panel and the chair, are perfectly good pieces of gear. They just didn't work for me. And that doesn't mean they're not going to work for you. Maybe you hike in areas where the sunlight is plentiful and a solar panel is the perfect solution for you. Or maybe the extra pound or so is worth it for you to have a comfortable chair. Maybe you don't want to sit on a bear can. They didn't work out for me. That's nothing against those pieces of gear. They're perfectly fine pieces of gear. They're just not going to land in my backpack anytime soon. I feel like gear envy is a trap that new hikers are going to fall into more often, but seasoned hikers are certainly not immune to. And something I like to remind people, especially when they're brand new to this hobby, is that if the piece of gear you have is doing the job, then it's the right piece of gear. You don't need the newest thing. You don't need the more expensive thing. If the piece you have is working, it's a good piece of gear. Keep it. Keep it until it doesn't work anymore. Use it until it breaks, and then buy something new. So let me know down in the comments. Are there pieces of gear that you bought strictly because you saw them on the trail and immediately thought to yourself, I want that? How did it work out for you? Is it something that is in your kit all the time? Is it something that's collecting dust in your gear closet? Let's talk about it, and we will talk again soon.